This podcast contains our own personal views, not associated with any organisation. Coronial contains descriptions of death inquests that may be graphic and disturbing to some listeners. Discretion is advised. Welcome back to Coronial, everyone. I'm Alice.
I'm Emma.
And I'm Georgie.
So a quick content warning on this episode that this death happens in the context of a mental health episode, is not strictly a suicide, but is in that context of a bad mental health episode. So just a warning there. So today I'll be telling you about the death of Colleen South, who died sometime between the 3rd of July and the 8th of August, 2022. Oof. She died in rural Victoria after going missing in South Australia, and her death was subject to a coronial inquest because it was an unexpected death and her family had concerns about the police search for her. So the family had requested this inquest.
Okay.
Colleen was 58 years old at the time of her death and had one daughter and 4 siblings. The inquest didn't really go too much into detail about her, but it did say that she was remembered as a loving and caring person. She was living in Adelaide, South Australia at the time that she went missing, although the coroner didn't go into whether she had ever lived elsewhere or, I guess, what else had happened in her life. In terms of her medical history, Colleen had been diagnosed with epilepsy, obstructive sleep apnea, insomnia, and type 2 diabetes. She also had depression and anxiety, bipolar disorder, and schizoaffective disorder. She had several inpatient and community treatment orders from 2011, and these became more regular from 2018. She had been prescribed medication but had a history of non-compliance with these medications.
Which is super common in those illnesses where once you're feeling better, you decide you don't need the meds, which I can totally understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, because don't a lot of them feel like it loses a lot of their personality or a lot of their ability to feel emotions and things like that? So they're
Exactly.
like, oh, I feel numb.
Well, it's also they don't feel like themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're on the meds.
Yeah.
But the meds are needed to
help
make them
control.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Do you know
hard.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's not unsurprising, I guess, that
Yeah.
there was non-compliance.
Yeah. Colleen had been reported missing on 9 previous occasions in South Australia.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, yeah, already I'm like, I can understand why the police are going to have trouble conducting a reasonable search if...
So the second to last time she was reported missing in March 2021, she was found on a rural property in South Australia after abandoning her car and walking aimlessly throughout the night. She said that she needed to escape from reality.
Did they say how far away she was from her home?
Not that time, but we will.
Okay.
I was going to say,
get to
or
it in a
her
second.
car, like, was her car nearby? Or was she... But also, like, how terrifying if you're just on your property and just some random...
As a person.
Yeah.
Her daughter advised police that she had previously slept on other people's properties, sometimes near her car, or she would walk around and find a tree to sleep under. Colleen's sister said that she had once travelled to a rural area and then walked about 20 kilometres and through a forest at night before being found by a farmer.
That's a long way.
Yeah.
Also seems fairly harmless to others.
Yes.
So that...
Oh, yeah. I'm
you know,
more
it's
thinking
not-
of her own safety.
Yeah. Obviously it's not... It's
In
harmful
those
for her, to
situations,
her.
Yeah, she's leaving a car and then just walking.
You don't know who you're going to run into.
Seemingly most of the time this is happening in rural areas as well.
Mm.
Which sort of makes sense if you're wanting to get away from life
Others,
and people and all of the stresses that come along with that. So in late June 2022, Colleen was preparing to move house in Adelaide, which was causing her stress and contributing to worsening mental health. Colleen's daughter last saw her on the 29th of June at the daughter's house, where she was incoherent and acting strangely. This was not normal for Colleen, but her daughter had witnessed similar behaviour in the past when she had gone off her medications. The daughter spoke to Colleen over the phone the next day and they discussed her move. On the 1st of July, Colleen hired a truck to move to the new house, which was about 15 minutes away, and was helped by 3 friends. She told one of them that she had lost her phone and had an argument with one of the friends during the move, which is understandable. Like, moving is a very stressful thing.
Yeah.
You've got
yeah,
friends
like,
helping
that's
you.
fine.
You've lost your phone, and then
What's going on?
Yep.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, she drove the truck back to her old address and told the new resident that she would be back later to collect the rest of her things. On the 2nd of July at 11:20 a.m., CCTV footage captured Colleen driving her car out of the truck hire rental car park. Then at 11:40 a.m., CCTV footage captured her shopping about 20 minutes away. A few days later, the truck that she had hired was found with a flat tire.
Right, hang on. So she had returned the truck or not returned the truck?
Not returned the truck.
She'd taken the truck out.
I have from this, I gather that she was in the process of returning the rental truck,
Yeah.
or maybe was in the process of moving some more of her stuff. It got a flat tire.
So she just went and picked up her car.
She went and picked
left.
up her car and left.
Right. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just assumed that she had returned the truck.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think it was too far, like it wasn't that far away because she was moving in a relatively small
Yeah.
area.
Yep.
But yes, by the sounds of things, she got a flat tire and was just like,
Oh, well, go get my
No.
car. It's all fine.
yeah. Yep. On Sunday the 3rd of July at about 12:15 p.m, Colleen was seen in Victoria at a petrol station in Berrywillock, about 5 hours east of Adelaide.
Okay, so she's just gone on a...
And she
Right.
started in Adelaide?
Yes,
or?
in Adelaide.
Yeah, okay.
Essentially Adelaide suburbs.
Okay. Yeah. But like, okay, so she's driven 5 hours away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. CCTV footage shows that she was wearing a pink jacket, and after filling the car, she continued driving south on the Calder Highway. At 2 p.m. that day, she was seen driving in Towanini. I'm probably butchering all of these names, which is about half an hour away.
Whereabouts in Victoria are we now? Are we...
We're-
Like coastal, or are we just
Yeah,
like
we're-
literally like,
Pretty much just across the border, sort of thing. Like we're
but like directly east of
yes,
Adelaide
pretty
or,
much
like, down
directly
south?
east.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so okay,
near
directly. So it's
Mount
probably like,
Gambier.
it's not quite like Ballaratish type.
No, that's...
Ballarat's too north?
That's too north.
Yeah, okay. We're in, what did you say? Tina who?
Towanini?
Towanini area. Do you not know where that is?
Do you?
Does anybody who doesn't live there?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. I've never driven through it. And I've driven to Melbourne a few times and Ballarat a few times.
Yeah, I don't think it's on the
On the way.
way. Or if it is, it's just a small town that you pass through, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Where is it, Georgie?
Yeah, it's like literally go east of Adelaide.
Mm.
Swan Hillish area.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're
Oh no, that's good.
I need to just know where I am.
Yeah, we're in
uh,
the bush, essentially.
south of Mildura.
So then at 3:30 p.m, her car was seen in Ninyanuk, another half an hour away.
Where's that? I'm kidding, it's fine.
Essentially
Half
the
an hour
same
away.
area. At 4 p.m, a neighbouring farmer saw Colleen's abandoned car at Bungaluki Wildlife Reserve, which was about 15 minutes south of Ninyanuk. The next morning, this farmer called the nearby police station and left a message about the abandoned car. So that was the 3rd of July that she left the car.
Yeah.
And that's where the time frame comes from, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know what
3rd of
happened in
July to
between.
something of August.
Yep. On the 4th of July, Colleen's daughter reported her missing to South Australia Police after a friend of Colleen's contacted her to say they hadn't heard from her in a while and she wasn't responding to text messages. This triggered an investigation by South Australia Police and then a subsequent liaison with Victoria Police.
How did they find out that she wasn't in South Australia anymore?
Well,
There'd
About to
been a
get to this.
report of her car
Yeah.
being
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
abandoned in
Yeah.
Victoria. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I am very thankful that the police talk to each
Actually
other
talk to each
other,
across
yeah.
states, because my understanding is that that can be variable.
yeah, in this case, they definitely did
Oh, good.
talk to each other quite well. So on the 5th of July, so 2 days after the farmer first saw her car, he went back to that car with a friend. He noticed that it had been involved in a collision with a culvert and the airbags had been deployed.
Oh, okay. That's like, you got to be going at like a reasonable speed to deploy your airbags,
Yeah.
don't you? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
They also saw some bags under a nearby tree, one of which was a handbag with a wallet inside. They went back to a nearby town and a friend sent a text message to a senior constable at that police station. The senior constable read the text at about 2:30 p.m. and triggered an investigation and search by Victoria Police. So this search continued over several weeks and included the Search and Rescue Squad, SARS, Mounted Police, the dog squad, the air wing, motorbikes, drones, and the State Emergency Service, SES.
So an extensive search.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Overnight temperatures in the area between the 3rd and 6th of July ranged from
Chilly.
3.8 degrees to negative 0.6 degrees. On the 8th of August, a month after going missing, Colleen was found deceased under a large tree by a farmer on his property, about 1.5 kilometres south of where she'd abandoned the car.
Okay, so she didn't walk that far.
Not this time.
Yeah, okay.
It makes you wonder how long, because obviously they said her date of death was within quite a long time period. Surely they'd be able to tell a little bit with a little bit more exact.
But what if she'd just been camping out under that tree for 6 weeks?
Yeah, exactly. But wouldn't have they been able to tell that she'd not been as dead for as long?
But I guess if she then had been deceased very early on.
Wouldn't you be able to
Would
tell
you-
that though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not,
Anyway.
yeah, I think not in this case. So when they found her, she wasn't wearing the pink jacket or shoes.
Okay.
She was identified using DNA on the 18th of August.
Okay, so she
So
probably
she was
wasn't...
rather decomposed.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say she wasn't visually...
So she
Still
probably
herself.
wouldn't have died on like the 16th of August.
Yeah.
She was found on the 8th, but yeah, like it
Oh,
wouldn't
sorry.
have been... She
Then
didn't die
no.
the day before.
She didn't
was
die
found.
on like the
Yes.
6th of August.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an autopsy found a fractured rib, but no other broken bones, no internal pathology, and no cerebral hemorrhage. Toxicology did not show any drugs or poisons. Therefore, the pathologist stated her cause of death was unascertained. So they couldn't technically find any cause of her death in terms of a disease process that had caused it.
What did they rule her cause of death?
Circumstances are suggestive that she just went for a walk and she's now in a rural area without food or drink. So I would
you'd
assume
say
it's
it'd be
just...
exposure.
Yeah.
right?
would
Yeah, I
assume.
think the coroner said that even though cause of death couldn't be definitively determined, she died after being exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
So exposure.
Yeah.
And whether that happened the night that she was out there or a couple of days later
Yeah.
is unknown. But
Yeah,
unlikely that she was alive for that whole
Yeah,
month.
it's just interesting because didn't you say at the start that like her date of death was sometimes between 3rd of July
Yeah.
and 8th of
They
August?
couldn't pinpoint a
Yeah.
specific.
So it's quite a
date.
large date range.
Yeah, and I guess they're probably just wanting to be as...
Yeah, they probably
Cautious as
couldn't say
possible,
it was,
but yeah.
it was definitely before this date.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't tell. But it's likely to be close to the 3rd of July than the early part of August.
Yes. So now we'll talk more in depth about the search conducted by South Australia and Victorian Police. At 3:30 p.m. on the 5th of July, the senior constable who'd been notified of the abandoned car via text message attended the scene and took some photos. He checked the car's registration and saw that it was registered to Colleen and she had been reported missing from South Australia.
Yeah, okay.
So they knew as soon as they found the car
that she was missing.
Yeah. He saw the 3 bags, including her handbag, in a neat pile about 20 metres south of her car. In the bags, he found Colleen's medications and a Ventolin inhaler. He was immediately concerned since the car had been there for the past 2 days and the overnight temperatures had been very low.
Yeah, right.
At 4 p.m, the senior constable contacted Swan Hill Police to get approval from the Divisional Response Supervisor for resources to search for Colleen. He requested the services of the dog squad, the air wing, and other police units. The Divisional Response Supervisor first asked the senior constable to contact South Australia Police to get more information about the circumstances of Colleen's disappearance, while also searching the immediate area himself. So essentially said no to that request for those resources.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, like, I get getting a little more background and like
Yes.
going for a wander, but I mean it's winter time, so how hot is it? But like at the same time, what are you realistically expecting the one person to be able to achieve in a search position?
Yeah.
Other than maybe happened to have wandered across, like, but that would only
Yeah.
be luck. That would not be a definitive easy search. I would have
Yeah.
thought. They're only going to go back to South Australia and find out she's got a history of going missing, at which point, again, I still would have thought a search would have been,
Yeah, it's still warranted.
yeah, an appropriate option. So if they've said no, I would have expected him to then just move on, get the information, and then get the yes, which I'm assuming did not happen, but we'll,
Yeah, not
from you.
immediately.
yeah.
He was joined by another senior constable and they searched the dams and farm sheds in the area. He also tried to reach Colleen on her mobile phone, but she didn't answer.
Yeah, because she lost it like several weeks ago.
Yes. He also contacted South Australia Police to get more information on her disappearance. So at 7:15 p.m, the senior constable again contacted the divisional response supervisor. The search had been temporarily scaled back because it was dark. The car had been there for at least 48 hours. There were no witnesses, and Colleen had a previous history of wandering on foot, which broadened that search area. So it's not like, say, she had a history of going missing and she was always found a few meters from the car.
Yeah.
Or, in the vicinity of the car. She had a history of going long distances.
She walked up to 20 Ks in like a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
A police unit from Swan Hill wasn't able to be dispatched because they were busy providing cover in response to the management of a violent prisoner in custody.
Seems fair.
Yeah, they also don't have a huge resource out there.
Yep. On the 6th of July, so the next day, a forward commander was appointed by Victoria Police, but South Australia Police remained the primary law enforcement agency in charge of the investigation in terms of the missing persons investigation.
Interesting. It's probably because where it was reported, right?
Yeah.
But we now have pretty active information that she's in fact in Victoria.
Yeah. Assistance from SARS, the dog squad and the air wing were requested then, so the next day, but not provided, due to the passage of time since the vehicle was initially located.
Okay.
I don't understand the argument.
Yeah, you want to do it more imminently.
No worries, I'll go leave my car somewhere for several days and then just be like, well,
sorry, which resources were refused? Did you say dog squad?
Yeah, SARS, dog squad and air wing.
Yeah, no, I can understand maybe the dog squad because they'll be like maybe the scent is gone, but the rest of them, I don't understand why you'd refuse.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about like helicopters are very expensive, but in this instance, I also understand that's not a hugely mountainous area. So like I would have thought that the search would be reasonably flat area to cover.
Yeah, it's sort of farmland.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So again, I mean, she's under a tree though, so she was somewhat probably slightly more challenging to see from air, but I don't understand why that wasn't available to them.
So grid searches of the immediate area were conducted with 6 members on the ground, along with a drone search. So they had some level of
something in the
air. Yep. Police triangulated Colleen's phone, but it had been switched off for more than 6 days. So it obviously wasn't going to be accurate.
Lost in Adelaide somewhere.
Yeah, but again, have they not gained the detail from the daughter that she didn't have it in the first place?
Well, that was just mentioned to a friend, so I don't know whether...
The daughter knew as well, okay.
The vehicle was found to have a significant amount of fuel in the tank, and it was still able to be driven. Even though the airbags had deployed, you could still drive the car if you needed to get somewhere in an emergency. The search continued on the 7th of July, so the next day, and the forward commander was in touch with Colleen's family to give them updates on the search. Now, on the 8th of July, so we are 3 days after the police first looked at the car, members of SARS were present to provide oversight and tactical advice in relation to the search, and the dog squad, air wing, mounted branch and SES volunteers were deployed.
At which point, like, by 5 days, I'm like, well, now I don't even know what we're searching for because, well, I know what we're searching for, and it's like, well, what's the point?
Yes.
I mean, she wasn't super elderly, although she could have been injured from the car crash. In theory, she could have survived 5 days. We're not, no, it gets really cold.
Cold temperatures.
Yeah, it's the cold temperatures. Yeah, okay. It's not like the snow one where, like, there was nothing that you were looking for after 24 hours. Like, there was no way you were going to have survival. But, yeah, 5 days, I'm like, yeah, okay.
The forward commander advised that the 300-metre radius around Colleen's car had already been thoroughly searched.
Hang on, wait. In 5 days, they searched only 300 metres.
Well, I think it's more that that area had been searched and it didn't need to be searched again. It's been 3 days since the police found the car, and there's only been 2 people initially searching and then 6 people and a drone.
Still doesn't feel like a lot, but I guess, because they don't have resources.
Yeah.
Okay, please go on. I'm upset for Colleen and her family.
And police were in the process of visiting all dwellings and buildings and potential shelters within a 10-kilometre radius. Because they're thinking that she'd gone to...
Did she have a history of going to... Because often she was found in, like, people's backyards and stuff. Did she
like
have a
on people's properties, I don't think. But I think that's just the general thing that when someone goes missing, generally humans look for shelter, and buildings are an easy shelter.
True.
A medical advisor to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority provided the opinion that if Colleen had been in the open since the 3rd of July, due to the very low overnight temperatures, she would likely no longer be alive by the 8th of July.
Why is someone from the Maritime Authority speaking on that? Anyway, I'm
Not sure.
It just seems a bit weird.
And I couldn't figure out whether that was in the context of the inquest or in the context of at the time during the police search.
Typically, I think it's generally the inquest rather than... Oh, but no, they probably do get advice. And it may be that was the only medical advisor available at the time in terms of who was available to provide advice.
Still a bit weird.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, not saying that they're not qualified
Oh,
to
yeah.
make that statement. It's just
Interesting choice.
Yeah.
When the dog squad arrived at the scene on the 8th of July, Colleen's car had already been removed, meaning that the police dog couldn't track her movements.
So helpful. So then we also just wasted a resource, because why would you send the dogs if they weren't going to be helpful?
So the police dogs the police dog, it was only one of them, was deployed for an off-lead open search. So they were still able to use the dog to search for her, just not actually track her scent.
Yeah.
They searched the wooded area to the south of where the car was found and a paddock on the southeastern side, and they didn't find any trace of Colleen. The senior constable from the dog squad said that the effectiveness of their searching was limited by the amount of time that had passed since her car had been found. Because obviously, the longer you wait, the less scent there is.
Yeah.
And also the car had been removed, so
Yeah.
even less scent for the dog to go on. On the 9th of July, the search continued with the Mounted Branch and SES volunteers.
Oh, yeah, as if you wouldn't send horses out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have thought that would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess just whether or not they were available.
True. I'm just assuming everything's available always
Yeah.
and easily available as well.
The dog squad wasn't considered required on this day because the police believed Colleen to be deceased, and the air wing wasn't able to operate because of low cloud and fog.
Okay, yep.
The police weren't able to find any evidence to say which direction Colleen had gone in after leaving the car, and the search was scaled back by the end of the day on the 9th. On the 10th of July, the search continued with local police units, but without any of those extra resources.
This doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So they're just sort of like, oh, we can't find any evidence to show us where to go, so we're just going to scale back resources. It's almost like too hard.
We've got really strong evidence that she was at least there at some point.
Yeah.
But I guess they're probably going off of that. She's probably like 20 Ks away.
And she's also probably deceased.
True, but...
Yeah, I suppose ramping down when there's no chance of survival.
Yeah, it does make sense. Sadly.
But I don't know. How many resources were recently invested in that medical student that spent 13 days in the wilderness or whatever? In the Kosciuszko National Park. The differences.
Yeah.
Because I presume he was expected to not be alive. But yeah,
I think they were concerned that he wouldn't be.
Yeah, but was continued
because he got lost. He didn't wander away.
Yeah.
He wasn't mentally ill.
I was about to say, is this because she has a history of it, potentially? That
they're not putting the resources in
less
because...
important?
Yeah.
I think that's the concern.
Yeah.
It never actually really went into necessarily in the inquest, but... And also what the resources available, I guess, between rural Victoria and somewhere that is tourist-based like Kosciuszko.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but you would think that the terrain in Kosciuszko would be a lot more difficult to deal with than the terrain.
Yes.
And the overnight temperatures and all that kind of stuff. But I guess he potentially had stuff with him that would have prepared him.
Yeah,
she has nothing.
Yeah, and it was also summer, wasn't it, when he went missing?
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to be as cold.
Yeah.
Still cold, but not too bad. On the 15th of July, the investigation was handed over by South Australia Police to Victoria Police, and a primary investigator was appointed on the 16th of July. On the 20th of July, Colleen's phone was found in South Australia.
Yeah.
As sort of expected.
Surprise! Where she left it.
Yep. So, between the 19th and the 21st of July, SARS again were present to provide assistance and tactical advice for the search. And the dog squad, the air wing, and the mounted branch and drones were deployed.
Wait, I thought you said that they didn't deploy the dog squad the last time because they thought she was going to be deceased. So
correct.
There was no point. So why are they deploying them now, several days after?
The dog squad was there on the 8th of July. Not there on the 9th. or the 10th, and then back again on the 19th to the 21st. I don't understand why there was that gap.
Yeah, but you said that they said
that they stopped
they
because there was
stopped
no
because
chance.
they thought she was dead.
Yeah.
Yep. But now
Then
they've
why
got
are they
them
bringing
again.
them back?
Yep.
I'm so confused.
Yes. Part of the SARS advice was for people to cross fences and walk into open paddocks to look at trees and places a person might take shelter. I think at this point they were sort of assuming she wasn't in a shed necessarily because someone probably would have found her.
Okay.
The dog squad searched the area up to about 1 kilometre south of where Colleen's car was abandoned. But they were told not to enter paddocks with crops because they had likely been sprayed with pesticides.
Right, and like that's risk for the dogs and
And
health
the
and
humans
safety,
as
right?
well. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. But at that point, they should have been finding alternative ways to search those areas that would be safe, such as said drone or flight or whatever.
Yeah. So as far as I could tell from the inquest, the search ended on the 21st of July.
Yeah.
Or it was significantly scaled back.
She was continued to be a missing person. We think she's somewhere around here, but we've searched as much as we can.
Yeah. So when Colleen was actually found on the 8th of August by that farmer, Victoria Police noted that she was not readily visible until very close to the outer branches of the tree. So this was either a really like low-hanging tree or a really big tree. I just said a tree in a paddock.
And she wasn't in it, she was at the base of it.
At the base of it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the coroner found that Colleen would not have been visible from the air.
Okay.
And there was no evidence that this area was searched on foot by Victoria Police. So it's not like they searched in that area and just happened to not find her.
Yeah.
On the 20th of August, Colleen's pink jacket was found in the hollow of a tree about 1 kilometre west of her car.
And she was 1 kilometre south.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
so
obviously
she's done
there was
around.
some
Okay.
wandering. On the 25th of August, her boots were found in the next paddock north of where she was found.
Okay, so
she's done a lot of wandering.
Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously taking off items of clothing at the same time. So in the inquest, the dog squad handler gave their opinion that deployment of more canine resources at an earlier stage would have increased the likelihood of finding Colleen, but that the time frame was obviously restricted by when the car was actually found.
Yeah.
Victoria Police conducted their own operational safety critical incident review and found that the investigation and search were structurally well planned and executed, although there were avoidable delays around the initial deployment of police resources and specialist support. It also noted that Colleen was found in a paddock with crops, and police were advised not to search these areas because of pesticide spraying.
Yeah, okay.
The report found that the closure of Charlton Police Station on the 4th of July delayed the initial search until the 5th of July, and the decision on the 5th of July to not deploy a police air wing and assets with forward-looking infrared capabilities was a missed opportunity.
Infrared implying that they were looking for heat source, though?
Yeah.
Which
they may or may not.
Yeah,
like
okay.
if they had known about it on the 4th, which was only a day after she'd gone missing, and then deployed those resources, she may have still been alive, and therefore they may have found her.
Yeah.
It also found that there is no Victoria Police Manual for police air wing and specialist support, which is a significant gap in policy. But the current Victoria Police Manual for search and rescue and specialist support is adequate and meets organisational requirements.
Yeah, I would have thought a wing search would have just been included in some sort of search and rescue guidance.
Yes. It noted that the delayed transfer of the investigation from South Australia Police to Victoria Police did not adversely impact the investigation and search, but the Victoria Police should have accepted primary control of the investigation soon after the search began.
Would have thought the moment that they found the car that it was therefore theirs.
Yes, you would. And I think essentially they're like, it probably should have been transferred then. Yeah. But it didn't actually have an impact on the search itself.
But hopefully moving forward, they can kind of be a bit more proactive about that rather than being like, no, not ours until it becomes ours.
Yep. It also found that in the Australian and New Zealand Policing Advisory Agency Policy for Missing Person Investigation 2020, the proof of life definition needed review to enhance understanding and application by frontline police. They didn't really go into that much detail about how this proof of life definition was relevant to this case, but
Okay.
maybe it's just that they did a review of that manual and were like, this is a bit vague.
Is it also maybe related to the fact that they, as you rightly said, withdrew the dogs because there was assumption that there was no life?
Yes, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
So the recommendations in this review by the police were that a statewide audit be conducted to ensure that all non-24-hour police stations, when unoccupied, have active call forwarding facilities.
Did they not?
Did they not have that?
No, when he initially phoned the police on the 4th of July, I think it was, he
Oh yeah,
he
you
left
said
a
it was
message.
closed.
That's right. What?
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it to divert a phone
It's not.
to a 24-hour service?
Yep.
And how is that not mandatory?
Yes. Agreed.
Because, like, the guy who found the car, the alternate option would be to, like, phone 000 if you thought that, like,
Yeah, but-
active, like, notification was necessary then and there.
Yeah, but I don't think 000 would have been like, no, this isn't
Exactly.
an
That's-
emergency.
But that's the only alternative
Yeah.
option if you actually genuinely wanted to report something
Yeah.
to the police in that area.
Yeah, and I don't know whether Victoria has Police Link,
Right.
like we do in Queensland, but even then,
Yeah.
I think if you make a report to Police Link,
it's also
not immediate,
Yeah,
like,
it's, an,
it
it's an
gets-
automated service
yeah.
and stuff as well. Weird.
so yeah, there's no other way of telling the police that something.
Which, and I guess, like, how urgent was it? But also just, like, how hard is it to use a forwarding service?
Exactly.
Anyway, for, like, the time
And get
that it might
someone
be.
to drive out there. Because they would have then checked the registration
that
and noticed that she
night.
was a missing person. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not
rather
that
than
she...
the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another recommendation was for a police air wing policy to be implemented, which includes processes for the deployment of assets in respect to missing persons. Makes sense. If they don't
Okay,
have the
sure.
policy, they should have it.
Sure.
And that the Victoria Police Manual for Missing Persons Investigations include a hyperlink to the Australian and New Zealand Policing Advisory Agency policy for missing persons investigations.
Okay.
Which was a very specific recommendation by the police, but okay, sure.
Do you not know that it exists anyway, though?
Yeah.
If you
But
don't
probably
know that
just
there's a
easy
missing
access.
persons...
Policy when there's a missing person.
Yeah, but like 3 months and that hyperlink will be broken
Oh,
anyway.
yeah, very true. The inquest heard from an expert witness, a detective senior sergeant who was a specialist missing persons investigator. He stated that from his review of the coronial brief, appropriate specialist resources were requested and used throughout the search for Colleen. In his view, the resourcing of the search was appropriate and capable of meeting the search objective. He also stated that the methods used for Colleen's search were generally conducted in accordance with guidance provided in the relevant policy documents.
But I'm confused because the very first day, the person who went to the car said, "Can I have some resources for this missing person?" And they said no.
Yep. Which maybe it's
Maybe that does fit the
aligns
policy.
with the
maybe
policy,
that's
yeah.
within the scope
But
of
why does that
policy.
policy say that it's okay to not search for someone? Sorry, they did search, but not use appropriate
I
resources.
suppose the car airbags have been deployed. I guess there was no evidence that she was in acute danger, but
She could have been seriously injured. Her airbags
Yeah.
had been deployed.
and also the senior constable who attended the car first was concerned about the overnight temperatures. Like that is
Yeah.
why he requested these things in the first place.
yeah.
But it might be in the policy that it's resource dependent. And
Yeah.
maybe their argument was there wasn't the resources.
Well, and I
so-
think when...
Which I don't think is a good excuse, by the way, but I'm saying that could be part of
Mm.
the policy.
I think there was also when I covered the skier who'd gone down the hill, there's like a risk-based resource management thing of like, what do we think the risk to the missing person is?
Mm.
And so potentially she sat low because she's got a history of wandering and,
And surviving.
surviving
And didn't you say they had that prisoner
situation.
situation
It's like,
going
where
on,
can
which
their
would have
resource go?
diverted resources.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
But maybe she hit that low risk that meant that it didn't trigger for the higher resources.
Mm.
But still.
Yeah.
If I was missing or a family member of mine was missing, I would hope that the police would be putting more resources
More than
and
one
effort
thing.
into it than they did in this
Yep.
circumstance.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why
The
that
family
is the reason,
requested,
why the family requested the inquest.
And yeah, in that instance, how do you try to escalate that?
Well, how aware was the family at the time? How little was going on to try and find their
Yeah,
mother.
it said that they were getting regular updates, but I don't know what detail those updates would have
Yeah.
been. Would it have just been like,
They
we're
wouldn't
still
have been like,
searching,
oh,
we
sorry,
haven't
there was
found
just
her.
one person searching.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have told them that.
Yeah. Surely not. They'll be like, yeah, the search has been conducted today and we've
Yeah.
not found her
Yes.
yet.
Yeah. The expert witness also said that the transfer of the investigation from South Australia Police to Victoria Police should have happened when her car was found on the 5th of July, but that even if that did happen, it wouldn't have changed the investigation because Victoria Police were already leading the search.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, the Victorian police didn't sit there and be like, oh, it's Adelaide's problem to search now.
Yes. Thankfully. The acting superintendent of the Specialist Response Division, which includes the dog squad, provided a statement for the inquest. At the time of Colleen's disappearance, the dog squad consisted of general purpose dogs, which are mainly German Shepherds trained in tracking and searching, apprehending offenders, and tactical deployment at high-risk incidents, and specialist detection dogs, mainly Labradors trained to detect drugs, cash, firearms, and ammunition.
Oh, so not people.
No.
Okay.
If the dog squad isn't able to provide a resource, one can be requested from outside agencies such as the Australian Federal Police and volunteer search and rescue dog groups. Police dogs are trained to identify and track scents from living people, and it's harder for a police dog to locate a person after death because their scent changes.
Okay.
At the
Makes sense.
time, Victoria Police did not have any cadaver dogs who are specifically trained in human remains detection.
Does the federal police have them?
You would assume so.
I think Queensland and New South Wales definitely do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
The statement also included the conclusion that there was no guarantee that Colleen would have been found even if a police dog was deployed on the 3rd of July, because of the time delay between when the car was first seen and when it was reported to police, the time delay in requesting the dog squad, the contamination of the scene by police and civilians, the removal of the car from the scene, and the uncertainty about which direction she had walked in after she left the car.
Which presumably, if there had been a dog able to take the scent from her car, there would have been a chance that they might have been able to decide which direction she'd gone away
Yeah,
in.
possibly. Or if there was some indication, like her shoes were dropped 10 metres away from the car south, and then the jacket was another 10
Yeah.
metres south, like you maybe
Yeah.
then would have thought, okay, she's going in this direction.
She'd
Or any
left
like
a trail.
footprints or whatever. You know, like when we had that couple in the...
Well, yeah, that was part of that I was going to ask, and they didn't get in a local tracker or someone who had
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think because it was mainly
tracking
farmland. And
skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
he noted that by the 8th of July, the ability to find Colleen using a dog squad resource was more or less non-existent.
Unless they're a cadaver dog.
Yes.
Is that essentially?
Yeah. Which is, again, why did they then use them again between
Yeah,
the
I'm
19th and the
so
21st
confused.
Yeah.
of July when there was pretty
No
much
chance.
no chance of finding her? Yeah. So the coroner's conclusion about Colleen's death were as follows. She had been experiencing stress and feeling overwhelmed about moving house on the 1st of July, and this prompted her to drive from Adelaide to rural Victoria. Her vehicle was driven off the road on the 3rd of July, possibly causing minor injuries due to the airbag deployment. She then wandered into bush and farmland and may have arrived at her final location on the 3rd of July, but may have also wandered for a longer period before sitting underneath that tree. As I said before, the coroner couldn't definitively determine the cause of her death, but it was likely exposure. So the coroner was satisfied that the search operation conducted by Victoria Police was generally conducted in a reasonable and appropriate manner and in accordance with relevant procedures and policies. The fact that Colleen was only 1.5 kilometres away from the car was discussed, with the coroner stating that although people may think that she should have been found sooner, given she was so close, police didn't know which direction she had gone in, and she had a history of wandering large distances, so they had deployed resources in a wide area.
Yeah. Okay.
So they weren't searching in necessarily a really tight circle around her car. They were like, well, she could be
Anyway.
20 kilometres away right now, so we need to spread out.
Yeah.
The coroner found that the initial response by police was delayed due to the nearby police station being closed and not having a call forwarding facility, and that the search could have started a day earlier on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
The coroner found that the dog squad should have been requested directly from the Specialist Response Division on the 5th of July after it was requested by the first officer who went to the car.
Yeah.
However, they still may not have found Colleen alive because she may have already been deceased by the 5th of July, and may not have found her at all because of the advice to not enter paddocks with recently sprayed crops.
Yeah, but I don't know if you've got a dog that leads you towards that paddock because it's got a scent for her.
Yeah, you may have made an exception to the...
Or you
could have sent in
whoever's
a drone
paddock that
or
was, ask them, would you mind checking wherever's safe for you, or in the safe manner that means that, you know, do you have a vehicle that we can drive around your property and that keeps us safe, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The coroner noted that Colleen's body may have been found earlier if Victoria Police had access to cadaver dogs.
So they went out and got some cadaver dogs?
They're trying.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So before the inquest, Victoria Police was notified that the coroner may make a recommendation that they conduct an assessment to consider the practicality and viability of establishing a cadaver dog capability within the dog squad. So because they had this advance notification, at the inquest, the counsel for the Chief Commissioner advised as follows. Victoria Police considers that the development of a human remains detection dog capability is sound, achievable and appropriate. Victoria Police is in the process of developing that human remains detection dog capability. There are some challenges with this, the most significant being access to appropriate training material, which in the case of cadaver dogs is
Dead
human
bodies.
remains at varying stages of decomposition.
Right.
So New South Wales Police has a human remains detection dog capability and has developed a training facility.
Yeah,
which
there is a cadaver farm, essentially.
Which uses appropriate training material, is the way they put it.
Dead bodies.
Yes.
But there are legitimately
People
cadaver
die.
farms
Yes.
for
Yeah.
people doing research into decomposition. Because how do we, you know, you're saying how can they not determine how long it had been since she died? Research is needed into that for people to be able to determine it. So it does exist.
Yep, definitely. And Victoria Police and New South Wales Police are working collaboratively on the fact that Victoria Police may be able to use the New South Wales Police training facility.
Yeah,
to train
sorry,
their
I'm
dogs.
staring at you poorly because I'm just like, if only we had like a nationalized,
Yeah.
federalized
Yeah.
police system where like the shared resources would be because they're all the one resource within the one country.
Yeah, that would
Anyway,
be
please
nice.
go on.
And also that Victoria Police is looking to establish its own training facility and wants to train police dogs with the dual capability of being deployed as either search and rescue or human remains detection.
That'd be cool.
Dogs.
Yeah, I really want to know how wages go for those dogs and or their owners. I have so many questions of how they become employed and
Well,
get paid.
they are owned by the police service. They don't have an owner.
Well, I mean, someone has
Well, they
to-
have a handler.
They have a
Yeah.
handler who looks after them.
And then generally once they retire, they stay with the handler. Yeah.
Yes, but then they're not owned by the handler.
Yeah, right.
So the coroner made 2 recommendations. The first is that Victoria Police continue its assessment of establishing a human remains detection dog capability within the dog squad. And number 2, in the meantime, Victoria Police liaise with New South Wales Police to use the resources of its human remains detection dog training facility.
Yeah, I'm sitting here being like, how many of them do we need across the country?
You only
Why
need
do-
one.
Yeah, why does Victoria need to establish one as well? But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since Colleen's death, Victoria Police have developed a specific search and rescue dog capability, and these dogs are not required to be trained in other disciplines like general purpose dogs.
Yeah.
So like we've got the German Shepherds who do search and rescue, but they also do offender chasing, essentially.
Apprehension. Yep.
Apprehension, that's the word. Whereas now they've got specific search and rescue dogs that don't do anything else.
Yeah.
They just do search and rescue.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess they're more specialised, but they also have more specific resources. They're not going to be pulled away to go and...
do other things as well.
So the inquest was released in March 2024, so this is a fairly recent one. And in July 2024, Victoria Police responded to the recommendations. They reiterated that they had started the assessment of a human remains detection dog capability, but there were a number of ethical, legal, and practical difficulties.
Absolutely.
The Victoria Police Dog Squad considers that strong partnerships will be needed with the Coroner's Court of Victoria, the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine, and the Australian Facility for Taphonomic Experimental Research.
What's taphonomic mean?
I assume dead body.
Okay. Cool. I learned a new word today and that
Yeah,
it's not
I've
going to
never
come
heard
up in
that word.
conversation very often.
No. And they also mentioned that additional funding will be needed, which makes sense.
No, not if they just use
What's
New South
already
Wales.
there.
Well, even like if they're setting up their new area of the dog squad, they're going to need funding.
Okay.
They want their own body farm.
They want their own training facility.
Fine.
So regarding the recommendation about liaising with New South Wales Police and their training facility, they accept the recommendation, but note that the implementation would have to happen after Victoria Police has concluded its assessment of establishing the cadaver dog squad.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You need to do your assessment of, can we even have that capability here to begin with? And then
is that
how do we
feasible?
train it? Do we create our own training facility or do we go to New South Wales?
And like also weird question of, in this context, how hard would it have been for Victoria to have called up New South Wales and be like, can we borrow a dog?
Yeah, it sort of seems like they don't
do that
between states. They'll go to the AFP, so the Australian Federal Police.
Right, they'll go to a federal.
Or some like volunteer, non-police.
But they don't just ask between.
So I don't think they do.
Because even if they just established a relationship so that even if it wasn't feasible for them to have their own cadaver dogs,
then had some...
Yeah, could they not then establish a relationship with the New South Wales Police
like
and get them
out their dogs?
Yeah, fly them to where they're needed.
But yeah, I just thought this one was super interesting, partly because cadaver dogs are super interesting. Also, the fact that those were the only recommendations that came out of this. I feel like there were some weird things in this police search that I didn't really understand, and the coroner didn't really explain. They just said generally it was in line with the policies.
Yeah, the policy
didn't really
existed,
explain
so
it.
Therefore it's fine. But it's like, well, no, but is it?
Yeah.
Technically, the search was within policy recommendations, but there's not enough detail there to understand why it fell within regulations, given we're sitting here saying, so you said no to searching on day 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yes to searching with dogs on day 21. Or,
yeah. You said no to the dogs initially, and then yes, and then no, and then yes again.
Yeah.
Much later.
Yeah, true.
But again, maybe that is just resourcing.
Yeah, and there's probably a deeper...
there'd be more to it.
That's just the inquest findings that we've provided, but there must be more information that we're just not gained. But
yeah, the coroner's not included in the inquest report.
And also just the manning or forwarding of phone calls to police stations when the police station isn't serviced at that point in time. Like,
Yeah, was that a formal recommendation?
No.
It wasn't. Well, it was mentioned as part of the police's internal review, so I think they were going to pick it up as part of that.
Fine. It's already happened kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I still think that would be good to have as an enshrined recommendation
Yeah.
just to cover it, because that seems like a pretty huge gap
Yeah.
to not have a police station manned and at least have any traffic forwarded somewhere else.
Yeah.
That
Well-
kind of concerns me a little bit as a person in the community, that if I called a police station and left a message that it potentially wouldn't get heard.
Yeah, for days.
But I'm also like, okay, but even if they're in a rural area, so if it had gone to another police station, would they... I guess potentially the police would have to have someone 24/7 on call either way though, right? Of like...
Surely.
Yeah, because something could happen that is an emergency. There would have to be resources in the area.
Yeah, somewhere. Or
Even
they
if they're
can
a little
come
bit-
from another
Yes, they
area.
can come from another place, yeah.
Yeah. I never really think about the logistics of how things happen rurally, but yes, it is much harder.
Yeah.
Things aren't as simple when you're outside of a big metropolitan area in Australia.
Yeah.
We just don't have the population density.
Manpower. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't realize how many areas of various dog trainings there were either.
Yeah.
I just, it's not something you think about often, but I'm like, okay, there's the airport dogs that can tell you if people have
If
got
you've got a banana.
illicit substances or what was
Or
it?
a banana.
It's fruit. It's really fruit in
And
Australia
drugs.
they're worried about.
But yeah, I forget about all the other purposes of like, so you said there was general apprehension.
Yeah.
Of
Which is what I always think of as those German Shepherds.
Yes.
really?
Yeah,
No, I
do the
think of the
attack.
searching. Yeah, I don't know. Attack dogs seem scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are.
I guess that's the point.
That's
Yes.
kind of- yeah.
It's an interesting method of apprehending someone, I have to say.
Hmm.
I actually like sitting here being like, is that particularly humane?
I
Not
think
really,
part
but-
of it is psychological, that when you see that the dog's there, you're possibly more likely to just
stop,
say,
and
"Yep,
so
okay,
and then it
arrest
doesn't
me."
actually have to.
Yes.
Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily
okay.
need to be deployed. It can
Yeah.
just be there.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think there is also an element of, you have an offender who has run away, you don't know where they are, so you can use the dog for like a dual
tracking,
purpose,
yeah.
track them and then apprehend them if needed.
Yes.
But yeah, if a German Shepherd was chasing after me,
I'd stop pretty quickly.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We will catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.